Hi, I'm Seth, 28. And 3 months ago, I stopped speaking to my parents, because they gave my brother a $50,000 house down payment and gave me a used toaster. It wasn't even a nice used toaster. One side barely worked, and the crumb tray was missing. I found that out the hard way when my apartment smelled like burnt bagel and regret for 3 days. The worst part? It was wrapped. Wrapped like it was some thoughtful, meaningful present. Like I should have gasped and said, "Oh wow, a re-gifted appliance from 2007. You shouldn't have." And my parents just stood there, smiling like they'd given me the keys to the kingdom. Meanwhile, behind them, my younger brother Darren was practically glowing, showing off photos of his new 2-bedroom condo with in-unit laundry and a balcony. "It's just a little something to help him get started," Dad had said. "Real estate is an investment," Mom added, beaming like they'd written the check themselves, which they had. A full $50,000 check. Straight from their savings. I sat there on the sagging couch in their living room, toaster box on my lap, wondering how many years I'd have to budget for groceries before my something to help arrived. Spoiler, it wouldn't. This wasn't new. Darren had always been the golden retriever of the family. Blonde, broad-shouldered, ex-football captain, big smile, no clue. He once tried to fix a dripping faucet by hammering it. Our parents called him resourceful. I called a plumber. But this was different. This was the moment I realized they weren't just playing favorites. They were investing in one kid's future and telling the other to enjoy reheated bread. So I left. Not with a dramatic speech. Not even a slammed door. Just me, walking out of the house with that sad little toaster tucked under my arm like a broken trophy. No one followed me. That night, I wrote a single text to the family group chat. "Hey, I won't be coming to Sunday dinners anymore. Or birthdays. Or Christmas. I'm done. Love who you want, support who you want, but I'm not sticking around to be the afterthought anymore. Seth." I expected someone, anyone, to call. They didn't. I didn't go home that night. Not to my apartment, anyway. I crashed at my friend Cam's place, a loft that always smelled like weed and ramen noodles. He didn't ask questions when I walked in holding a toaster under one arm and a 6-pack in the other. He just scooted over, handed me a blanket, and said, "Long day? You could say that." I muttered, dropping the toaster like it had insulted me personally. Over cold beer and background reruns of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I told him everything. The check, the condo, the toaster. When I got to the part about the missing crumb tray, Cam spit beer across the couch. "They didn't even spring for new mediocrity?" he howled. "That's wow. That's poetry." I laughed, but it wasn't funny. Not really. It was the culmination of every birthday I got socks while Darren got an iPad. Every school award I brought home that got a polite nod while Darren's participation ribbon got a family dinner. Every "You're so independent" that really meant "You're on your own." "You ever tell them how you feel?" Cam asked. "No point," I said. "They just look at me like I'm ungrateful. Like I should be honored they kept me fed and moderately alive through childhood." He nodded, didn't argue. "So what now?" That question hung in the air. What now? I had $218 in my checking account, rent due in 5 days, and a toaster with abandonment issues. My job, entry-level tech support, barely covered rent, and my side hustle editing wedding videos had dried up after the summer rush. But for the first time in years, I felt clear. Like walking away opened up space in my chest that had been stuffed with dust and silence for too long. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to beg for fairness anymore. I was going to build my own version of success, and it would burn so bright they'd need sunglasses just to say my name. It started the next morning. I pulled out my old laptop, the one with the cracked corner, and keys that stuck like a moody X. I opened up the business plan I'd abandoned a year ago. It was rough, messy, half-formed, just like me. But it was mine. A micro-agency. Focused on short-form storytelling. TikToks, Reels, mini-docs for small brands, real stuff, built to connect. I knew editing. I knew pacing. I knew how to make people feel something. And I'd spent my whole damn life trying to get noticed. Time to put that skill to use. That day, I made a logo, built a one-page site, and texted every old client, friend, and contact I could find. By midnight, I had 3 responses. By the end of the week, I had 2 booked gigs. And 1 used toaster holding up my monitor. It blew up faster than I expected. By month 2, I was working 16-hour days, editing for brands I'd only ever seen in sponsored ads before. One was a boutique gym chain in Florida that wanted punchy, 30-second transformation reels. Another? A startup plant shop in Portland with a feral aesthetic and a CEO who wore capes. My desk was a second-hand IKEA fold-out. My chair squeaked like a haunted swing set. And yes, the toaster was still there, cradling my second monitor like it belonged in a tech museum for emotionally neglected freelancers. And I was thriving. The work lit me up. I'd forgotten what that felt like, creating things that actually mattered to people. Helping small brands tell big stories. Waking up excited instead of drained. I didn't even notice how little sleep I was getting, how many frozen burritos I ate in a week, or that my phone had gone silent from all family contact. Until Darren called. Yup. Darren. Mr. $50,000 condo. Mr. Hey bro, mind helping me move this couch you're not invited to sit on? I stared at his name on the screen, blinking like it was a mistake. I almost let it go to voicemail. But I didn't. Hey. I answered flat. Seth, he said. Pause. You got a minute? For you? I've got 30 seconds. He sighed like he was gearing up for a TED Talk. Look, I didn't know they gave you that toaster. That's your opener? No, I didn't ask for the money, man. They offered. Said it was time I settled down, got a place. I figured they were gonna help you too. I let that sit for a moment. They did, I said. They helped me become an expert in reheated bagels. Seth. Don't. I cut in. I'm not mad at you. I'm mad that they never looked at me the way they look at you. Like I'm worthy. Like I deserve. There was a long silence. Then, softly, I see it now. I didn't know what to say to that. So I didn't say anything. He continued. Mom's worried. You ghosted everyone. She keeps saying you're punishing her. I'm not punishing anyone. I said calmly. I'm protecting myself. Another beat of silence. Look. I saw your website. I blinked. What? It came up on my feed. That ad you did for the vintage bookstore? Dude. It made me cry. Like me? Cry. That caught me off guard. You're killing it. He added quietly. I'm proud of you. I hung up before I said something stupid. That night I stared at the toaster. Thought about throwing it away. But I didn't. Instead, I took a Sharpie and wrote on the side in block letters. Fuel. Because that's what it had become. 3 days later, I got a call from a venture capitalist who'd seen my work. Said she was assembling a digital media collective, and she wanted me on board. You've got edge, she said. You're not polished, but you're real. I met her for coffee. She paid. Offered me $75,000 in startup funding and office space in a shared studio downtown. I walked out of that meeting into the sharp autumn air, heart thudding like a drumline. I didn't just leave my parents' house that day. I walked into the version of myself I was always meant to be. The email came at 7:12 a.m. on a Tuesday. Subject: Sunday dinner, home? No caps, no emojis, just 6 plain words from my mom's Gmail account. The same woman who once decorated Darren's graduation party with 3 custom cakes and a rented chocolate fountain had sent me an invitation with all the warmth of a dentist appointment. I stared at it while eating cold cereal straight from the box, sitting on a folding chair in my new studio space, which still smelled like fresh paint and potential. I just signed the lease. 14th floor. Exposed brick. Terrible parking. But mine. I didn't reply. Instead, I reread it 4 times, then closed my laptop and got to work. My business was now booking faster than I could keep up. I'd brought on 2 interns, Maya and Felix, both film school dropouts with more talent than common sense. Perfect hires. We just landed a contract with a social impact nonprofit that wanted to humanize their work with micro-stories. The kind of project I dreamed of doing back when I was making wedding highlight reels for couples who only ever paid in Venmo and exposure. But the email lingered. By Friday, it had 2 follow-ups. One from Mom. We miss you. Please come. And one from Darren. They're trying, Seth. It's weird and messy, but they're trying. So I showed up. Not for them. For me. I pulled up to the house with my windows down and the volume up. Stepped out in a leather jacket I definitely couldn't afford last year. My hair was longer now. My confidence, too. Darren opened the door. Whoa. You look like a guy who charges for eye contact. I laughed despite myself. You look like you still live rent-free. We hugged. It wasn't awkward. That surprised me. Inside, nothing had changed. Same beige carpet. Same outdated floral couch. Same porcelain figurines on the shelf that I used to call the breakable army. But there was a weird energy in the air, tight and twitchy. Like everyone was waiting for me to explode. Mom met me in the hallway. Seth. Honey. She reached for a hug. I gave her a quick one. She held on too long. It's good to see you, she whispered. Yeah. You too. Dinner was roast chicken, mashed potatoes, asparagus with lemon zest, Darren's favorite. I wasn't surprised. Old habits die passive-aggressively. But there were also garlic rolls, which were mine. That detail hit me harder than I expected. They didn't ask much about work. But they listened when I brought it up. Dad asked a few clunky questions. What is digital media storytelling? How do you make money? But they weren't loaded with skepticism like before. Just confusion wrapped in effort. At one point, Mom said, "We've been reading your blog." My fork paused midair. "Your piece on narrative trust," she added. It made me cry. That's when I knew something had cracked. After dinner, Mom brought out dessert, store-bought brownies. "Not homemade," she said, embarrassed. "Didn't have time." "They're fine," I said, and I meant it. We sat in silence for a while, plates scraped clean. Then Dad cleared his throat. "I owe you more than one apology," he said. "But I don't know how to give it without sounding like a script." "Then don't script it," I said. He looked me in the eye. "We failed you." I didn't respond. Not with words. Just nodded once, slowly. That night, I walked out with the same toaster under my arm. Still didn't work. Still no crumb tray. But this time, it felt like mine. The podcast invitation came out of nowhere. A producer named Jasmine emailed me on a Wednesday afternoon. "We love your brand voice. Would you be interested in being a guest on the Underdog Effect?" I laughed out loud. Not a little chuckle, a full-body laugh that startled Felix into dropping his camera lens. That show was big. Like Spotify's Top 100 big. The kind of podcast that had CEOs, best-selling authors, disruptors, and people who wore Patagonia vests unironically. I wrote back, pretending I wasn't screaming inside. "Sure, happy to chat." The episode was called From Toaster to Tech, One Founder's Story. Jasmine thought it was catchy. I hated it at first. But she was right, it was catchy. We recorded the following week. She asked about my work, my vision, my startup. But then she said, "Tell us about the toaster." I smiled. "You want the truth?" "Always." So I told it. Every detail. The down payment. The missing crumb tray. The walkout. The silence. And how that moment lit a fuse that turned into a fire I never planned to put out. "You think you'd be here if they gave you that down payment instead?" she asked. "No," I said. "I think I'd be comfortable. Maybe grateful. But I wouldn't be hungry." The episode went live on a Monday. By Wednesday, my inbox exploded. Not just with praise. With opportunities. Partnership offers. A feature request from Wired. A TEDx invite. An email from the small business director of a major brand. "Let's talk collaboration." And then, because the universe is nothing if not hilariously poetic, I got a message from my mother. It was short. "Your aunt heard your podcast. She's embarrassed. I'm proud. Even if I was the villain in Act 1. I didn't reply right away. That weekend I visited her. Just her. No Dad. No Darren. We sat on the back porch with mugs of coffee that tasted like peace. "I didn't expect you to become a voice," she said. "I didn't either." She took a deep breath. "We didn't know how to raise two different kids. Darren needed us so loudly. You didn't." "I did," I said softly. "You just weren't listening." She nodded. "I hear you now." The silence after that was intense. It was full. Like finally, the air could settle between us without collapsing. As I left, she said, "Keep the toaster. If you ever sell your company for millions, I want it in the documentary." I smirked. "Only if I get final edit rights." Back at the studio, Maya had stuck a post-it note to the toaster. It said, "Break room artifact. Handle with emotional care." We all cracked up. I left it there. A relic of what sparked the whole damn thing. It started with the realtor. Not mine, Darren's. I was in the middle of editing a reel for a local animal rescue, voiceover timing a slow-motion shot of a beagle licking peanut butter off a spoon, when my phone buzzed. "Darren, hey, weird question. You ever thought about buying a place?" I stared at it. My first instinct? With what toaster equity? But I typed back, "What's this about?" His response came fast. "My realtor's got a duplex listing coming up. Off market. Good price. Said I should pass it on. Could be perfect for you." Perfect for me. Right. This was the guy who once called my IKEA futon bohemian suffering chic. But still, I was in a better place now. I had savings. I had clients. I had traction. And I was tired of paper-thin walls and neighbors who practiced trumpet at 2 a.m. So I called the realtor. And within a week, I was standing inside a sunlit upstairs unit with original hardwood floors, a bay window, and a laundry nook that made me want to cry from joy. The downstairs unit? Already rented. Passive income. The math made sense. The timing felt right. For once, I didn't need a family handout to make a life move. Except the realtor kept using one phrase that itched under my skin. "Your brother said your parents might want to contribute to the down payment." Ah. There it was. I declined politely. Firmly. Still, the next morning, I got a call from Dad. "Seth," he said. "We heard about the duplex. We'd like to help." I sat at my studio desk, staring at the cracked mug I'd used for 6 months because replacing it felt too indulgent. "You mean like you helped Darren?" There was a pause. "Yes," he said. "Exactly like that." And for a moment, I felt something I didn't expect. Anger, yes, but also pity. For them. They finally saw me. But only now that I'd stopped asking to be seen. "I don't want it," I said. "Seth." "No, I mean it. I can do this. And more importantly, I want to. Without strings. Without pretending this makes us even." He fell quiet. Then, quietly, "Okay. We respect that." And he hung up. Later that week, I closed on the duplex. No fanfare. No champagne. Just me, a friend's truck, and 3 trips up narrow stairs with boxes labeled things like wires I pretend I'll organize and sweaters that still smell like college. When I plugged the toaster in on my new kitchen counter, it sparked. Of course it did. I laughed. Then I threw it out. Not out of spite. Out of freedom. The Forbes article hit harder than I expected. Not because of the headline. How a $10 toaster sparked a $1 million storytelling brand. But because of what came after, the emails, the calls, the strangers in my inbox telling me they'd felt the same way their whole lives. Overlooked. Undervalued. Given socks while their siblings got spotlights. And suddenly, I wasn't just a guy who built a business out of spite and video editing. I was a voice. It felt good. Too good. So good that when my mom texted, "Read the article. We'd like to see your place," I didn't feel defensive. I felt ready. They came the following Sunday. Not with an apology or a checkbook, but with pastries from the bakery I used to love as a kid. And a plant. Darren carried it like it might explode. "Ficus," he said, like that was a complete sentence. I let them in. The place wasn't big, but it was mine. Hardwood floors, second-hand furniture, and a giant whiteboard in the kitchen covered in color-coded post-its that mapped out client projects and wild ideas. In the corner sat my desk, and on it my new toaster. "Wow," Dad said. "You've really made this work." Mom didn't say anything at first. Just looked around like she was seeing something she'd missed for 28 years. Then, softly, "You were always good at building things." I didn't say thanks. Not yet. We sat. I made coffee. We awkwardly passed around croissants. Darren finally broke the silence. "So, you're kind of famous now." I rolled my eyes. "Only in very niche entrepreneurial corners of the internet." He grinned. Still counts. Mom reached into her bag and pulled out something I hadn't seen in years. A photo of me, age 15, holding the first camera I ever saved up for. The one I bought with birthday money and side gigs editing school projects. The one they told me was a nice hobby. I found this, she said. In the attic. Thought you might want it back. I stared at it for a long time. I used to wish you saw me the way you saw him, I said finally. Like someone with potential. Dad nodded slowly. We were wrong. Not because Darren didn't deserve support, but because we assumed you didn't need it. You were quiet. You handled things. We mistook that for strength instead of survival. That landed harder than I expected. I'm not angry anymore, I told them. But I'm not interested in pretending it didn't happen either. The toaster wasn't just a gift. It was a message. They nodded again. No excuses? No. But we meant well. Just acceptance. And that was enough. As they left, Mom stopped at the door. We'd like to come to your next launch event. If that's okay. I smiled. I'll save you front row seats. But fair warning, there'll be a whole slide about that toaster. She laughed. Just make sure it's a flattering picture. They left. And I stood in the doorway for a long moment. Then I walked back to my desk, looked at the new toaster, sleek, modern, and functional, and beside it, I placed the old one. The infamous, crumb tray missing, uneven browning disaster. Not as a grudge. As a reminder. That sometimes, the smallest slight can light the biggest fire. That your worth isn't measured by what you're given, but by what you build. And that walking away wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of the best chapter yet.